In 2026, which MacBook is actually worth your money? There are 4 models, overlapping specs, and nearly identical ports. And Apple's current lineup is engineered to make you second guess every click. And because every single component is soldered in at purchase, there are no upgrades later. One wrong configuration, and you are locked into that mistake for years. But here's the thing, the right MacBook was never about chasing the best specs. It is about matching the machine to your actual workflow. So let's cut through the confusion and walk through exactly which MacBook you should buy, and more importantly, which ones to avoid. Apple's 2026 MacBook lineup divides into 4 clear families, each defined by its screen size and core identity. On the lighter end, there is the 13-inch MacBook Air, the most portable and affordable option, and its larger sibling, the 15-inch MacBook Air, which offers more screen real estate without adding much bulk. Both Air models are built for mobility, with fanless designs and a focus on battery life, making them a natural fit for students, travelers, and anyone who values lightness above all. Stepping up, the 14-inch MacBook Pro enters the picture. This model brings a more robust, actively cooled chassis, extra ports, including HDMI and SD card support, and a mini LED display that caters to creative work and demanding multitasking. For those who need maximum screen space and power, the 16-inch MacBook Pro sits at the top. It is the largest and heaviest, but also the most capable, aimed at professionals who run intensive workflows like video editing, 3D rendering, or heavy software builds. The Pro line prioritizes power and expandability. Every MacBook in 2026 is defined by its fixed configuration. Memory and storage are locked at purchase, so picking the right size from the start is essential. The Air and Pro lines overlap in some specs and port options, but the difference in display technology, cooling, and expandability sets them apart. Throughout this guide, these 4 families, 13-inch Air, 15-inch Air, 14-inch Pro, and 16-inch Pro, form the backbone of every decision point. Whether you are after portability, power, or a balance of both, understanding these families is the first step toward finding your fit. Cooling, ports, display technology, and fixed specs draw the real lines between MacBook models. The Air runs fanless, relying on passive heat dissipation, quiet and slim, but it slows down under heavy, sustained tasks. The Pro, with active cooling, fans, and heat pipes, keeps its chips running at full speed for longer stretches, a difference that matters for anyone pushing through video exports or large code builds. Port selection shifts the experience further. Both Air models offer 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, MagSafe 3 charging, and a headphone jack, enough for simple setups, but tight for those juggling multiple monitors or devices. The 14-inch and 16-inch Pros add a 3rd Thunderbolt 4 port, HDMI 2.1, and an SD card slot supporting more complex workflows and quick media transfers. Display quality separates the tiers. The 13-inch Air uses a standard IPS LCD, the 15-inch Air upgrades to Mini LED, while the Pros feature Mini LED Liquid Retina, XDR with up to 1600 nits and 120Hz ProMotion. Every MacBook now locks memory and storage at purchase, RAM and SSD soldered with no upgrades later, making initial choices critical for anyone planning to keep their machine for years. For anyone who spends their days on the move, whether that is a student racing between classes or a consultant shuttling from airport lounge to client site, the MacBook Air remains Apple's most trusted travel companion. The 13-inch Air, starting at $999, is the lightest and most affordable entry in the lineup. It is built for those who value battery life, silence, and a bag that stays light even after a full day out. Independent battery tests from AnandTech put the 13-inch Air at 18 hours and 30 minutes of web browsing, a figure that holds up in real-world classroom and cafe use. For students juggling note-taking, research tabs, and a steady stream of assignments, that means you can leave your charger at home and still get through a marathon day of lectures and study sessions. But battery life is not the only factor to weigh. The 13-inch Air comes with 8 GB of unified memory by default, which is enough for basic multitasking. Think Chrome, Word, and Spotify all running at once. If you are the type to keep dozens of tabs open or occasionally edit photos for a club project, bumping up to 16 GB is a smart move. Remember, Apple solders both RAM and storage to the motherboard. You cannot upgrade later, so it is wise to plan for your needs in year 3, not just day 1. Think about your long-term needs before you upgrade. For those who want more screen but still need to travel light, the 15-inch Air adds a brighter mini LED display and a slightly larger battery, stretching real-world endurance to about 19 hours. This model is popular with knowledge workers who live out of a carry-on, need a bit more space for spreadsheets or presentations, and still want a laptop that slips easily into a slim bag. The 15-inch Air starts at $1,299 with the same memory and storage choices as its smaller sibling. Both sizes keep things quiet and cool with a fanless design, a blessing in silent libraries or crowded trains, though it does mean performance will dip if you push the machine with heavy tasks for long stretches. Neither Air offers HDMI or SD card slots, and both cap out at a single external display via Thunderbolt. If your workflow involves regular presentations or dual monitors, that is a real limit to keep in mind. For most students and frequent travelers though, the simplicity and stamina of the airline are hard to beat. Rumors are swirling about a refreshed 13-inch Air with an M3 chip later this year, promising a modest speed bump and possibly new color options. But for many, the current models already deliver all-day battery and no-fuss portability. The key is to size your RAM and storage right from the start. And if you spot a good education or promo deal, do not wait long. These configurations tend to sell out fast during back-to-school season. For anyone whose day revolves around raw performance, think video editors, 3D artists, or software engineers. The differences between Air and Pro models go from subtle to impossible to ignore. Let us walk through 2 real-world workflows that put Apple's silicon to the test, exporting a 4K video and compiling a large code base. Start with the video editor. On a 13-inch MacBook Air with 8 GB of unified memory, exporting a 10-minute 4K project in Premiere Pro clocks in at just over 8 minutes. That is fine for the occasional YouTube upload, but if you are slicing multiple clips, adding effects, or working with heavier codecs, the Air's fanless design means it will throttle, slowing down as heat builds up. Move to the 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M2 Pro chip and 32 GB of memory, and that same export drops to just over 3 minutes. The difference isn't just about numbers, it is about workflow. A creator running through dozens of exports a week saves hours, not minutes, over the course of a month. The 16-inch Pro with the M2 Max pushes it even further, finishing the job in under 3 minutes, thanks to twice the GPU cores and higher memory bandwidth. Memory configuration plays a key role here. Unified memory is shared by the CPU and GPU, so video editors working with 4K or 8K timelines should plan on at least 16 GB, and ideally 32 GB or more if the budget allows. Remember, with Apple's current lineup, memory is soldered to the board, so what you buy is what you live with. Storage is the same story. A 1 TB solid state drive is the baseline for anyone keeping large project files on hand. Now, for the software engineer, on the Air, compiling a medium-sized Xcode project averages 21 seconds. That is not slow, but the 14-inch Pro with M2 Pro nearly halves that, finishing in just 12 seconds. With the M2 Max, it drops to 9 seconds. For developers who build dozens of times per day, or who juggle Docker containers and virtual machines, the Pro's faster compile times and larger memory ceiling translate directly into productivity. The Air can handle basic development, but as soon as you are running heavy workloads or multiple virtual machines, swap pressure and thermal throttling creep in. Benchmarks like Puget Bench and Xcode compile times make the case clear. The MacBook Pro's active cooling and higher tier silicon are not just for show. They deliver a measurable advantage in real creative and engineering work. For anyone whose time is money or whose projects can't wait, the Pro's extra cost is justified by the hours it gives back. If your workflow lives in Chrome and email, the Air is more than enough. But if you are pushing pixels or code, the Pro earns its name. For corporate executives, the MacBook decision is less about chasing specs and more about securing a stable, hassle-free tool for the next 3 to 5 years. The 16-inch MacBook Pro, particularly in its M2 Max configuration, becomes the benchmark for this approach. $3,199 is the starting price for 32 gigabytes of unified memory and a 1 terabyte solid state drive, rising to $4,099 for the fully loaded 64 gigabytes and 2 terabyte model. This machine sits at the top of Apple's pricing structure, and for those managing teams and budgets, the premium is justified not only by performance, but by reliability and support over time. The 16-inch Pro's mini LED display delivers 1,600 nits of peak brightness, ensuring clarity in any lighting. Its suite of ports, 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI 2.1, an SDXC card slot, and MagSafe 3 means no scrambling for adapters in the boardroom. Support for up to 4 external 6K displays or 2 8K monitors covers every presentation scenario. The 100 watt-hour battery, the largest allowed on commercial flights, provides around 13 hours of real-world use, supporting executives through long-haul travel and back-to-back meetings without interruption. Hardware, though, is only part of the equation. AppleCare Plus for the 16-inch Pro adds $399 for 2 years of extended coverage, with accidental damage protection available at $149 per year. For a device expected to weather multiple operating system cycles, international trips, and the daily grind, this coverage is a strategic investment. The standard warranty handles hardware failures, but AppleCare Plus offers priority support, global repair access, and next-day device replacement in many regions. For executives, it is not just about fixing problems, it is about preventing costly downtime. With unified memory and the solid-state drive soldered in, sizing up at purchase is essential. Choosing 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes of memory and at least 1 terabyte of storage guards against future software demands and the steady accumulation of files. The upfront cost is steep, but spread over 3 or 4 years, the annual expense is easier to justify, especially compared to the cost of lost productivity from a machine that is out of commission or running low on space. Rumors of an OLED 16-inch Pro or new colors persist, but for executive workflows such as email, spreadsheets, video calls, and presentations, the current mini LED model already exceeds requirements. For those who value zero weight, stable inventory, and the assurance of Apple's best warranty, the 16-inch Pro with AppleCare Plus is less a laptop than a multi-year insurance policy on time, data, and peace of mind. MacBooks in 2026 arrive with a choice that can't be undone. The memory and storage selected at purchase are permanent. iFixit's teardown of the M2 Air and Pro models reveals what Apple's spec sheets only suggest. Both unified memory and the solid-state drive are soldered directly to the logic board. No upgrade slots, no expansion bays, and no way to add more later. The configuration step becomes a commitment that shapes the machine's future. Unified memory serves as a shared pool for the CPU, GPU, and neural engine. The Air starts at 8 GB, maxing out at 24 GB. The Pro ranges from 16 GB to 64 GB, depending on the chip. Bandwidth is critical. The M2 Air handles 200 GB per second. The M2 Pro reaches 300 or 350 GB per second, and the M2 Max climbs to 400 GB per second. These numbers are not abstract. They determine how well the laptop manages large video files, code bases, or three-dimensional projects. For professionals, higher bandwidth and memory mean fewer slowdowns and less time lost to swapping files. Storage is fixed as well. Apple's soldered NVMe solid state drives range from 256 GB to 8 TB with real-world speeds between 2.5 and 7.5 GB per second. Entry-level drives are fast enough for most tasks, but editors and those with large libraries benefit from the 1 TB or 2 TB options, which offer smoother performance and fewer bottlenecks. Once chosen, these specs are locked in for the life of the machine. Apple's integrated design delivers impressive performance and battery life, but it also means that sizing up at the start is essential for anyone planning to keep their MacBook for years. Port selection and external display support are where the MacBook lineup draws some of its sharpest boundaries. For anyone who juggles monitors, projectors, or a desk full of accessories, knowing these limits is essential. The Air models, both 13-inch and 15-inch, keep things simple: 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, MagSafe 3 charging, and a headphone jack. That is enough for a charger and maybe a single accessory, but the real constraint is display support. Both Air models can drive only one external monitor, up to 6K at 60 Hz, through Thunderbolt. There is no HDMI port and no official way to add a second external screen. For students, travelers, or anyone who works mostly on the built-in display, this is rarely a deal breaker. But if you need a dual monitor setup for coding, trading, or creative work, the Airline just does not stretch that far. The PRO models open up the possibilities. The 14-inch and 16-inch Pros add a third Thunderbolt 4 port, full-size HDMI 2.1 and an SD card slot. This means you can connect up to 2 external monitors on the M5 Pro chip, one via Thunderbolt up to 6K and one via HDMI up to 4K at 120 Hz. Step up to the M5 Max and you unlock even more. 3 Thunderbolt displays each, up to 6K plus an HDMI monitor for a total of 4 screens. For content creators, financial analysts, or engineers running complex workflows, this flexibility is often non-negotiable. It is worth noting that Thunderbolt bandwidth is a real physical limit. Even with adapters and hubs, the Air model's single display cap is hardwired, not a software restriction. The Pro display engine and extra PCIe lanes are what make multi-monitor setups possible. Rumors point to a future Air with HDMI 2.1 and maybe a second display output, but as of now, those are just rumors. No shipping model offers it. If your ideal workstation involves more than one external screen, the Pro is the only way to go. For everyone else, especially those who value simplicity and travel light, the Air model's port mix covers the basics without extra weight or cost. The M3 chip family stands at the center of Apple's next leap, shaped by the realities of TSMC's 3-nanometer production delays. Performance gains are substantial, about 20% faster CPU processing and 30% better graphics than the M2 generation. Early benchmarks show Final Cut Pro 4K exports falling from 1 minute 10 seconds on M2 Max to under 1 minute on M3 Max, while Xcode compile times drop by nearly a fifth. For people whose work depends on speed, editors, developers, and artists, these improvements are more than incremental. Release dates, however, are staggered. The 13-inch MacBook Air with M3 is now expected in the last quarter of 2025. The 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro models with M3 Pro and M3 Max chips are projected for mid-2026. TSMC's delay has pushed Apple's roadmap back, meaning the next generation Air will not arrive before the holidays, and the Pro models may not surface until summer or early fall of 2026. A simple timing framework emerges. If a current MacBook is holding back daily work and a replacement is needed soon, the M2 and M5 models remain strong choices, especially as prices drop to clear shelves. For students and general users, the M3 uplift is welcome but not essential. Creative professionals who can wait 6 months or more will see real benefits from the M3 Pro and M3 Max, with rumored memory ceilings reaching 96 gigabytes. Those prioritizing battery life will find current Air models already excel, with only modest gains expected from the next generation. The decision comes down to urgency versus patience, matching personal timelines to Apple's evolving calendar. Right now, every MacBook choice locks in years of performance, portability, and limitations. No do-overs. As Apple's lineup blurs the lines between Air and Pro and M3 rumors swirl, clarity matters more than ever. The right fit depends on your real workflow, not just headline specs. So what matters most to you? Share your workflow and questions below. I am here to help you make the smartest call.